I'm not religious, but like, I don't like having sex with people. I might be a cuck. Lumi, please tell me what I deserve. I'd like you to wear heels and just school me on PUBG because I'm trash. I don't believe you're a virgin. Um, okay. Why would you be ashamed of that? Like, you can believe whatever you want, but me, I believe in purity, and I believe in waiting until, I'm not religious, but like, I don't like having sex with people who are not going to be in like some sort of long-term relationship with me. I'm not like overly opposed. Okay, if there was like a very strong connection with you, I maybe would do it. But like also I don't do hookups. Okay, it would have to be like do have one boundary that is like I'm not going to do a hookup if I haven't like seen your blood work. I don't know if people think this is weird, but like um I don't want like sexual pleasure is not worth risking like an STD, you know? So if I'm gonna have sex, like I want to see blood work because it's totally not worth it. Like otherwise, like if there wasn't such a risk, that I might be more likely to have more sex. It just makes me feel uncomfortable if I don't know, cause like I don't know where the fuck you've been. Like, what have you been doing? It's not worth it. I honestly might have an unhealthy relationship to this connection of purity because it has like caused me internal anguish sometimes. It's like I feel like sometimes I'm like too sexually repressive in some ways. That's how I feel, like to the point where like maybe it's cuz I'm like so exposed to fucking right-wing propaganda too that I'm absorbing the collective consciousness and the collective consciousness's negative perception of sex and purity versus like what's the opposite, like purity versus like promiscuity, you know, because especially because I've done like certain lewd content before, even though it's like solo modeling content. Like I like see what everybody says about it, which I think like some people go too far, but okay, believe whatever you want. Next response. I might be a cuck. That's okay. Honestly, I think the whole cuck thing is kind of hot. But like most people are insecure about it, but like that's totally, you're like creating that in your mind. Like there's no reason to be insecure about it. um I'm a bisexual male married to a woman. Only she and a couple of very close friends know. So I assume you guys like you're married to a woman and she knows. So like you guys experiment, like it sounds like it's open. Like you sometimes have sex with men, like with your wife or alone. I mean, that's fine. Like there is this negative, dude. You know what I hate about the world? Sometimes it's like the world has somehow convinced the majority, or like I don't know, 50% of people that sexual energy is evil. Isn't that the most insane fucking psyop thing you've ever heard? To me, it is, because sexual energy doesn't matter who it's with. Like, sexual energy is like one of the most primal baseline pleasures to being a human. And somehow, the world has convinced us to feel bad for indulging in sexual energy. It's like if you've ever read like radical red pill stuff, they have convinced you that like being sexual is evil. Like sex work is evil, or like being gay or bisexual is evil. But it's one of the most natural things to being a human. Like there's so many like actually bad things. And then people will go and demonize something that is as pure and simple as spreading love to it, or like sharing an intimate connection with another human. Isn't that, how did that happen? It's just sad. And then since that's established, even if you feel this way, there's often lots of internal shame and guilt for indulging in it, or even feeling that way, for being gay or for being bisexual, for anything. Like just the awareness of what the collective consciousness, the mainstream, the public, whatever, your parents, just the knowledge and awareness that they think a certain way, depending on how you are, that creates guilt and shame within you. And then you feel bad for doing something that's not actually bad. So yeah, you're fine, dude. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Chat says, you are right about the food. I can't agree about the sex stuff. And he also says, cucking is a deplorable practice of letting your wife sleep with another man in front of you so you can get off to the humiliation and shame. But where does the humiliation and shame come from? And why does it exist? That's the question. Like, why does it exist? That's the whole point. Because it's only humiliating relatively based upon your own belief system within your mind, and every human has their own belief system. He says because it violates something sacred. This whole idea of something sacred. You know what? I'm not going to okay, wait. I actually agree with the idea that it is good to develop a sacred relationship with a lover. I actually agree with that. I think that's good. But the way in which you develop that sacred relationship is dependent upon the unique connection between two individuals. And what that means is that the way in which you build that which is sacred depends on the individual dialogue between two individuals, or however many individuals. It depends upon building something with somebody else. I don't think there's like some higher order, like objective way to build something that is sacred. Like God told me this is the only way to build something sacred. And if you don't follow steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a linear fashion, if you can't follow this, then you're breaking the sacred bond. Like, I don't believe in that. But I do believe in building something that is sacred between two individuals with unique communication between those two individuals. So, as a third party, you don't have the right to say that they're violating something that is sacred when you are not part of the relationship that is sacred. To them, maybe they communicated and they have like a deep understanding of each other, and they are still building something sacred, but they're allowing sexual exploration that is outside of the norm. And like the ability to still love somebody while overcoming jealousy, for example. Like, can you still love somebody even if you have to deal with this like big pin of jealousy, for example? Or like, there's so many other examples. But yeah, does that make sense? I think you're beautiful, and I wish I could talk to you outside of stream. Oh, that's cute. Thank you. I mean, you can talk to me outside of stream. If you follow my socials in the link tree, actually I respond to all DMs on the subscription website, which you can find on my Twitter. Yep, I respond all by myself. I'm a stay-at-home dad, and everyone looks at it as an excuse for me to be a degenerate gamer gooner. What? Everyone looks at it as an excuse. So you're a stay-at-home dad and you're saying like people think you're just like being a degenerate gamer gooner even though like you like that's not what you're doing. I wonder how many kids you have. Like it's hard to say anything without the details. But I will say, yo, what's up, Slipspace? I will say my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I think stay-at-home parents are, depending on like how rich you are really important to family life because and I think America and maybe the I don't know, I think America at least is straying away from family life where like there we're missing some sort of connection. We're missing like if both parents are working, then there's less attention being given to your child, which can be bad depending upon the alternative that you're giving them. Like, okay, if you're like super rich and you could put your kids in all the best schools and you can hire maids for your kids, like it's fucking hard, dude. Like how are you gonna take all the kids to school and work and do all this stuff and also raise them properly and teach them principles and like protect them from outside negative influence? Like stay at home parenting is like not something to be ashamed of. It just depends. It's so there's so many variables that it depends on. I'm looking at chat. Chat says, I think I would love to see my significant other to be used as a doll, but spiritually it would break me. Maybe you need to be broken spiritually so that you can build back up higher. You ever think about that? That is a horrible thing to tell somebody. I disagree. As somebody who has been broken before and rebuilt, I will say it is very painful, but it is also, I realized a lot of growth comes from the things that give you the most suffering. Whatever, take what you will with that, but sometimes like all your rigidity and all your boundaries are holding you back from your highest self. All of this like shame that you're creating within your mind is holding you back from something that could be way greater. And I've dealt with like a lot of shame. I still deal with shame sometimes. Shame and like guilt. But I realized like it's so fucking stupid. Like some things like I should not feel this way. I'm just nerfing myself. I'm just like harming myself by allowing myself to feel this way. And a lot of these boundaries are like they're not even your boundaries. They are boundaries instilled into you from other people. They're not even yours. Like have you ever like sat down and dissected why you feel guilt or shame? Like it goes very deep. Like why do you feel this way? Do you even know? Most people don't know. If you ask that to somebody who says this, you know what they're going to say? They're going to be like it's just like because it's degenerate, like because society says so. But then like do you know why they say that? Like sometimes you have to like dissect a little deeper to actually realize. Chat says shame and guilt are biological adapted features that can help. Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know if I would say they're biological features. I would say there are cultural features that are independent based upon the culture of a society. It's not like if there's not like some it's a way to like fit in with the crowd. It's a way of like survival. The reason you feel that it's a survival mechanism to fit in with society so that society doesn't murder you. You know, back in the day when we had like when we really relied upon being in a group and stuff, you know. But I think we are developing a little bit further. Female. I haven't been with a female, but find them beautiful, including you. Oh, thank you so much. I agree. Women are so fucking beautiful. Like sometimes it's just painful how beautiful they are. Like I feel, yeah, I love women. um, you should, you should, you should try it. We only have one life, and you don't know how long it's gonna last. As long as you're like doing it safely, you know, be safe. Like me, I wouldn't do sexual things with people without seeing like blood work, but I'm extra weird. Um, but you should do things. You should follow some of your desires, especially a desire that is not harmful like this. Like it's a loving desire. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. You ever think about like why are women so desirable? God, I don't know. I don't know. But so every time sometimes I fall in love with a girl and I'm like, ugh, God help me. Why is this so painful? Fuck, dude. It's like, but I think that's like that is the that is the sacrifice you make for having a desire. A desire can do two things. Can give you joy and motivation and positive energy if you're pursuing it without fear and you're being successful pursuing it in the positive polarity, or desire can cause depression and fear and shame and whatever, all the negative polarities. And the way in which this works is usually if you're successful in obtaining your desire, you will feel good about it. You'll be building something positive. But if you begin to fail in that pursuit, you'll feel as though you're falling and you'll feel the negative emotions. It's just a spectrum, it's a trade-off. That's what desire is. And you can even transcend the negative polarity where you can feel and acknowledge the negative emotion of sadness or whatever negative emotion it is, and you can feel gratitude for that by just the understanding that the only reason you're able to feel this falling sadness is because there's something so great and desirable that you want it so bad. You want it so bad that and you can't have it. And so you feel sad and there's like some sort of beauty in that suffering, I think. And like, if you can accept that, then I think you can even you can like fully transcend the negative polarity to where desire is nothing but a positive. Because if you've ever reached the point where you have no desire, maybe there is some like greater point where you're not driven by desire and you're driven by something else, but I think desire is a really good thing. And I think there's been stages where I went through this like these weird spirituality phases where I was like totally absolving the ego and totally like Buddhists say like desire is the root of all suffering. And a lot of people take that and they demonize desire, which I think is bad, really bad to do so. Because desire is actually good and you shouldn't be like trying to dissolve desire. You should be focusing your desire in the right manner. And you should use it as a driving force forward by understanding the positive and negative polarities of what desire is. Because there's been times where I've like, I did all of that spiritual work with meditation and psychedelics and whatever, and I actually dissolved all desire before. And it was so fucking weird to me. It was like, at least I think I dissolved it. It was weird because I felt like neutral. I didn't feel like I maybe I'm addicted from my childhood, growing up with very strong desires, very strong roller coasters of emotions, ups and downs. Um, where I would be like, I would have ups and downs, but like the downs were so bad, I would get so depressed that I would be like suicidal almost. Like that's how bad it was when there's a lack of understanding of the negative polarity. And and then when I dissolved all of this, it's like I felt like I felt like a zombie in contrast to having the desire. And it was like, wow, this is not, yo, maybe this works for you, but this is not for me. I don't want to live without desire. It feels so lifeless. It feels soulless. Like it feels like I'm running away from reality. It feels like I'm running away from struggle, from suffering. And I do not I feel like I feel like the stronger soul you have, the more you can bear both sides. The more you can bear that suffering. And the more you can bear it, the more joy you get out of life. If you can hold on to whatever suffering arises from your desire. So, yeah. Um yeah, so you should pursue your desires for sure. And it is like even it is risky because like say you're in like a long-term relationship and everything is great. Like it's scary because you've built something and you're like you incrementally every year you're climbing higher and higher, maybe potentially. At least you're climbing higher and higher, and you know at one point, you know, we're all going to die and everything is going to end eventually. So that you don't know when that fall is going to happen. And the higher you build up, the further you're going to fall and the more painful it's going to be. And the only reason you can feel that pain is because you built something so great. So that's something to be admired and respected and loved and appreciated. And it's not something you want to look away from. It's something you want to like, you want to realize like the reason this is so painful is because everything is so good, you know? Women who can articulate themselves with such ease is hot as fuck. I agree it is. Is it the same as a want or a need? Or is desire its own thing? I think it depends how far you expand it, but I think desire is the same as a want or need. You can separate desires. So I was saying, he's asked if desire is the same as a want or need, and it is because technically we don't need anything. We only need things under the condition that we want something. Even food and water. We only need food and water under the condition that we want to continue living, technically at the lowest level. So that is also desire because we have a natural desire to survive and live. Like that is like built into us. So yeah, and it's technically the same thing. Trying to suppress desire often leads to an unhealthy relationship with those feelings. Yeah, I mean, it depends how you suppress it. Like sometimes if you suppress an emotion, it can leak out in other ways if you're not aware of it. Kings of Leon takes me back to smoking and kissing strangers in the middle of the night. I mean, that sounds like a nice dream. I've never done that. I was listening to like romantic music and making out with strangers. I that that sounds like a desire I would have one day. So I've had this desire where I want to I wanted to like travel the world and like just be in unknown places and just like explore in the middle of nowhere, like away from everything. I will really want to do it, like something about traveling in new places. Like I don't know, I've literally never been to a club before. I feel like a repressed baby, honestly, cuz I've never been to a club. I've never like gone to a bar by myself before. Like I feel like there's so much of the world I haven't seen that I need to see, and I'm like really missing out on a lot. Lumi, please tell me what I deserve. I'd like you to wear heels and just school me on PUBG because I'm trash. I prefer boots. I like wearing. I have most of my shoes are boots. I don't actually. I have like one pair of shoes for running. Everything else is like boots. What about the desire to not desire? That is that is a difficult desire to overcome in spiritual development. Yeah, because there's lots of like spiritual cultures that try to teach you to like absolve desires and like gain awareness on this, and then like eventually you like develop a desire that's so strong, and that desire is to not desire things, and it's like, how do you fucking get rid of that desire if you're like actively trying to like have an ego death, for example? And I think that the whole thing is a trap. That's why it's bullshit. Like, you can do it, but you can only do it once you're in movement or whilst you're in movement. And what that means is like you can only fully be active and overcome desire when you let go of the things holding you back, and then you pursue your purpose. And your purpose should not be like letting go of desire. Your purpose should be like pursuing love, pursuing things that make you happy, pursuing like I think that's the answer, is like creative pursuit. I don't believe in the whole dissolution of desire. I think desire is powerful and important to being human anyways. Your perspectives are always so unique. I never thought about food and water like that. What did I say about food and water? But yeah, the food culture is huge. Like I have a lot of negative emotion towards the food culture and how like it's once you break out of the food matrix, I don't know, it's just like there's so many awful foods. It's like difficult to find foods when you go to grocery shopping. Like 90% of the food in grocery stores are actually not good for you. If you were at a bar by yourself, I'd have to hang back and fight all the people that would be creeps to you. I dated a girl once, and like we're I told her I never been to a club, and she was like, if we go to a club, I'm gonna have to like fight all the people off of you. Sounds familiar. We never went to a club, by the way. How is the situation in America really? Is it cheaper to grab some trash food from McDonald's compared to buying groceries and making a proper meal? If you know the right things to buy at the grocery store, no, it's actually cheaper. Okay, vegetables can be pretty expensive, but like you can buy. Okay, no, okay, to eat, okay, you can buy shitty food for cheaper. Yes, okay. You can buy shitty, trash, unhealthy food for cheaper. Yes. But healthy food is not that much more expensive. Like you can buy like beans. Beans are really good for you if you soak them and cook them properly. To so if you buy beans and then you soak them overnight, you can reduce the anti-nutrients and the phytic acid through soaking and washing it. Beans are really good for you. Um, Vegetables can be a bit more expensive, but not that much more. It's just I would say the real trouble is is really difficult to cook healthy food consistently when you're working a lot. So the readily available food, unless you're meal prepping, is just like it's so easy to buy all of this trash food. It's just everywhere. Like it's just way easier to like live off of bad food because it's difficult to cook healthy food all the time, like fresh meals. Which also ties into what we were talking about earlier about having like a stay-at-home parent. Like there's not there's less and less stay-at-home parents, which means there's also less time for the parent to be at home like cooking you good food, which means more and more people are buying fast food and readily like trash food, which means more and more people are getting more and more unhealthy, and then that's why there's a health crisis in America. But yeah, whatever. Who cares, right? Nobody cares about that except me, apparently. I realized my guilt and shame that was a part of me for so long, but then I unchained myself, so to speak, and came out as bisexual. But I haven't told my mom just yet. Do you think this is a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. You don't have to tell anybody. But it depends on you. I don't know your scenario. Like there's some people who will like tell their parents. I know at least two trans girls who, maybe more, three trans girls who told their parents that they were trans and they got kicked out of their house when they were like 17, like when they were like still young, and they kicked them out after telling, which is like terrible, like terrible parenting, tragic, such bad parenting. It's evil, actually, I'd say. So like you don't have to tell your parents. But if you're in a situation where you're like not dependent on your parents for survival, then like you shouldn't be. I don't think you should be afraid to say anything. Like you don't have to. You don't have to reveal everything to the external world. You can feel a certain way and be proud of it within yourself without shouting it to the world. You know, it's fine. Like just wait. Like if you think it's going to like help you with something, then do it. But if you think it's going to harm your potential, then you don't have to do it. It's not a big deal.